people gave the availability for the webinar. So
yeah, only 2 people told me that they couldn't participate. So anyway, in that case, I will send them the recorded.
By my side, we can start.
Okay.
No.
So okay, we got the green.
Okay, we can start. Okay.
Yeah, we got the green light from the region. So let's start. Welcome to this second webinar within the GreenS project. As you know, like 2-3 weeks ago, we had our Train the Trainer in Brussels. And as you remember, there it was a lot about training, how to do GPP trainings, how to do Green Public Procurement trainings. But in our project, there is also one point is that we now know how to give a training, but it doesn't necessarily mean that now everybody is already an expert on GPP. So the idea was also, from our experience now from eClay, to provide information on how to sell GPP, because you have to do a GPP institutionalization, meaning you have to look into, in your region, how you will spread the GPP, how you will convince public authorities to actually implement GPP, to go for tenders, to also create a certain shift in mindset in order to think positively about, yes, it's good not to just look at the cheapest price, but to look at how you can purchase and procure products that lead to more energy efficiency, to reduction in CO2, and ultimately also to less costs. But in principle, it's about creating added value for what you buy. And therefore, as agreed with you, we thought this second webinar would focus simply on introducing GPP. And I will then send also around the presentation. The idea is simply that you can use it. You have to get a bit an idea how you can sell GPP in your trainings. And I will give the presentation, and afterwards we can have a discussion about the introducing a GPP if there are additional questions. So we'll now open the PowerPoint presentation. Okay, you can all see now the presentation. I called it the magic of GPP. As I mentioned, in terms of GPP, why write magic? Because it's really a good tool in order to achieve several targets that a public authority may have, whether it's at national level, at the regional level, or at local level. You know, you may have, you may be part of the Covenant of Mayors, and you will have to do SEAPs, the Sustainable Energy Action Plans, and there obviously GPP, Green Public Procurement, can help to reduce energy efficiency. Since the Covenant of Mayors, joining the Covenant of Mayors, it's all about reducing energy efficiency, reducing CO2 emissions, and to go beyond the 2020 targets of the European Union. But it may also be that in your local, regional level or national level, there are strong targets that you are in a city that says, well, not only because we are Covenant of Mayors, but we, our city, our mayor, we want to be CO2 neutral, if you are now very ambitious, or you want to be really lead the example and say, your city says, we have a strategy, targets, we have strategy to reduce CO2 emissions and to contribute to climate change. And in that sense, GPP can be an important tool to support these targets to reduce CO2 emissions and energy efficiency. And also, you know, sometimes when you work on this green public procurement, sorry, you hear a lot about GPP, but people may not be accustomed. Here in Brussels, for instance, it's very common. People use a lot of these acronyms, and GPP is one of them. But what animal is it? So when you have to sell it, it's good to you show the advantages of GPP in order to not only have, in the ideal case, the next tender of a product or a service done with inclusion of green criteria, but also to create a mindset so that the procurers you train, they actually think, oh yes, like last week we had this training in Cyprus, in Italy, in Sweden, in Bulgaria, in Spain on the green public procurement. Why don't we use it? Why don't we try? We know now also where the links are for the criteria. And we can use it. Other cities use it. We heard about good practice example. Let's do it. So it's really also about selling it. The first question is, and here we did also some exercises. You will remember we had a flip chart, and all of you wrote just what popped into your mind on what may GPP be: energy efficiency, saving costs, or does it mean more expenses, reaching climate targets, greener products. So it's always good to build a bit of a frame as a starting point. So in principle, GPP is part of SPP. It starts with the sustainability. We all know that the sustainability or sustainable development in essence is about balance. It's about the balance between the three dimensions. They sometimes call it also the three Ps: the planet, the people, and the profit. Basically, first of all, we need a healthy environment to start with. Then we need the social field, and then obviously the profit, the money is also important. So ideally, when you do sustainable public procurement, you have a project which does not hurt or damage the planet. It's not toxic. It doesn't consume excessive amount of energy. When it's at the end of the life cycle, it's not just thrown into the river, now in the worst case. And also, in terms of people, when we talk now about sustainable public procurement, it's also about taking care about who produces this product and how it is produced. In the worst case, are we sure that the child labor is excluded? And eventually, ideally, this product would also be cost efficient. And when all this comes together, we have a balance, and we can talk about sustainable public procurement. And the product is really a sustainable product. And when you achieve that, you really did a good job. Now, in GreenS, we look more at green public procurement. Why? Because our main objective here is to look at environmental criteria, to look at energy efficiency and the reduction of CO2 emissions. So our key objective is really to produce products, to purchase products and services that are using energy, and through GPP, through green tenders, manage to have products that consume less energy and less CO2 emissions. Now, sustainable public procurement, it's basically considering all the environmental, social impacts of the purchasing decisions, and green public procurement is mainly focusing about the reduced environmental impact of the purchasing. So it's basically about the environmental, green, ecological criteria in the procurement decisions. So when you are planning, or a city or regional authorities planning to build a new house or to retrofit a new house by making it more energy efficient, it's about to think what criteria can we actually use to make this product, this service greener. Now, what does it mean, procurement process? When we talk about including green criteria in the procurement process, we should be aware how a tender looks like and what are the tender requirements. So when you have a tender, a procurement, there are usually requirements for products and services and requirements for suppliers. When we talk about the requirements for products, the first thing is the subject matter. Let's say your authority leases or buys 100 computers. So if you have a normal tender, you would say, okay, we are looking for a supply as a subject matter supply of 100 computers. Now, if you write it, if you say it like that, you will feel there is no really green in it. If you really want to do a green GPP, it would be much more ideal to say supply of 100 energy efficient computers. Because when you say energy efficient computers, it already gives a strong signal to the market, to whoever is interested to supply these computers, that here someone is asking for a green product, energy efficient computers, not just 100 computers and the cheapest price, that's what we get. No, they should be energy efficient. What you could not do is, for instance, say we want 100 Energy Star computers. Because when you say 100 Energy Star computers, that's a label. The Energy Star is, is a label on energy efficiency of computers. But what you cannot do, and what is an important principle in procurement, probably one of the most important, is do not discriminate. So if you have 3 bidders, you cannot discriminate one by another. Because if one supplier has the Energy Star and the other one has another label, he may say, well, I don't have it, so I'm discriminated. But when you say you want 100 energy efficient computers, everyone can try to supply you energy efficient computers, and then you have to include the criteria. How do you compare the different offers? Another phase or important part of this tender are the technical specifications. Technical specifications are must criteria. That means minimum criteria. If a bidder supplies you 100 computers and you say, look, my technical specification is that the energy consumption is the maximum energy it consumes is, let's say, 100. If someone offers computers that consume more energy, the offer cannot be accepted. So in the technical specification, if you're really sure about the market, that a certain product is possible, for instance, you want furniture made of sustainably managed forests, or you want a building and inside the energy consumption in the building doesn't go beyond a certain amount of energy, or you say, you need the energy for all the public buildings in a region or in a city that belong to the public authority. You say that the energy must come from renewable energy sources, then it must come from renewable energy sources. And if you specify them, and it's not 100% renewable energy sources, this bid cannot be accepted. So therefore it is important that either you do a pre-market engagement in a way that you, for instance, invite suppliers or association of suppliers, because again, you cannot discriminate and say, okay, I invite 2 suppliers that we usually work with, and with them we discuss what can be criteria, what they can offer. Because then again, other suppliers may say, well, the authority had some bilateral discussions and we were not included. So it's always better to do an open invitation, and you say, for instance, okay, the region of in Cyprus or Sweden or Bulgaria, wherever, they are interested to do a tender on a certain product. They want to understand what's on the market. They want to define technical specification, minimum criteria. So they invited and to discuss what is possible. That gives also a strong signal to the market that here someone is interested in doing a green tender. And all what is in the technical specification must be provided. So if you are not 100% sure, though, that the market really offers this certain product, you may also ask here that only 50% of what you want is really green. Let's say, for instance, you need for all the public buildings of a city, you want to try to have the energy supplied, the electricity from renewable energy sources. You could say at least 50% of the energy of the electricity supplied should come from renewable energy sources. And then you are sure, okay, that they can manage. And then you could always say, okay, if someone then offers 100, he will get additional points. But at least 50% everybody should supply. Then comes the award criteria. And these award criteria are basically points or percentage bonus points that you give. In the example that I made on electricity, if you say in the technical specification that 50% of the electricity supplied should come from renewable energy sources, you could write in the award criteria, which is a can criteria. It's not if they don't provide that, they are out. But you could say, okay, 50%, that's my minimum criteria. That's the technical specification. If someone offers more, it gets more points. So it could be in the end that you have 3 offers, one 50% electricity, you know, according to technical specification, and the rest conventional, and the other one maybe 50% or 70%, you know, and then you can with the additional points, it could be that you even get more electricity from renewable energy sources, and that helps you to even have a greener contract. But you, in like this, whatever you put in the technical specification, there you are sure that the product or the service is green, and what you put in the award criteria is just to give additional points to companies who offer more. Then there are contract performance clauses. This is basically how the contract is performed. Like, for instance, you say, okay, whoever does all the energy equipment in our buildings, whoever does that should also give training to the people who manage this building then, in order how to run it. You know, if there is some problem in the house, so that they get some training. Or, for instance, you say that the computers that are supplied, they shouldn't be supplied in a way that each computer is packed with a lot of package, but you want them all in one package, and that they take all the emballage, how do you say, the packaging back. Or you say, if there is a supply contract, that you say, okay, whenever you bring this product, try to bring it in the morning or in the evening, not to create additional how do you say, traffic jam. So there are ways how this contract is performed, and there are additional ways to bring in green considerations, because, as I said, GPP is about green public procurement, and you can really think, where do you want to bring these green ecological considerations in? So a good point is always to put them in right in the beginning. Subject matter, you know, you can, whatever you want to procure, make sure that it gives a signal about the greenness. Supply of energy efficient computers, construction of energy efficient building, or from green electricity, without discriminating. And obviously, whenever you put in a criteria, you also have to show how you want to verify it, because you cannot just say, I want this and that green or less energy efficiency. You then have to show also what has to be supplied, and either a label or a technical dossier, because it's important that at the end, when you get the offers, that you can compare them. And variants are possibilities that you say, okay, I want this building to be like that. If someone offers me, according to the same criteria, a green offer, like with a product that is greener than the minimum criteria I asked, I will take it in consideration. And then there are the requirements for the suppliers, the technical capacity, exclusion criteria, and also there you can include green criteria, because you could say, for instance, when you build the typical example of a bridge in a natural park, obviously there you wouldn't let any construction company do it. You would ask the construction company to have, for instance, an EMAS, an environmental management audit system. So someone who really has experience also with in the environmental field. Or, for instance, if you build a building that should be very energy efficient, maybe, and should be an exemplary building in your city, you may ask someone to provide a page where they somehow show also that they have experience in it, and they should list the. So also here you can include green criteria. And this is also a nice quote that I sometimes use from Achim Steimer, the UNEP director. UNEP is the United Nations Environment Program, as you know, that he said at the Rio +20 summit that sustainable public procurement is the most important measures for countries seeking a green economy. So since we are talking a lot about green economy, green jobs in these days, I think this is also a good quote to bring to your trainings or for your GPP institutionalization, that you say, look, there's really a lot of support, and important people like this Achim Steiner confirmed that this is really a key measure, GPP, in order to advance on the path of green economy. Now, what products and services? I think here we don't have to go too much in detail. We went through this. All sorts of products can be procured, and green consideration can be brought in. For us, as mentioned, it's the most important are the ones that really help us or manage to reduce energy, so that the final product that you have has is consuming less energy than the product you consumed, the product that you purchased in your previous tender, because that's all about it. In GreenS also, what we have to show is that thanks to our GPP institutionalization, thanks to our GPP training, eventually we managed that the public authorities did the tenders that they thought GPP was a good thing, and then they actually did green tenders, and they purchased, for instance, yes, in mobility, when buying vehicles, when buying electricity or buildings, that they actually try to reduce energy so that we can say, thanks to GreenS, this amount of energy has been saved. And if energy is saved, it's also CO2 emissions that are saved. Now, why doing GPP? That's could be a typical example. You go somewhere and they say, well, it's nice, GPP, okay, we get it. Achim Steiner, in principle we get it, but why should we do it? It's much easier and cheaper to just go for the cheapest offer, and then because that's how we always done it, etc. And then it would be good to really come up with some advantages. First of all, in the past, sometimes the reason giving was, well, legally it's not fully clear. Can we really include green criteria? But fact is that already the procurement directives of 2004 explicitly referred to green criteria. They said, yes, you can ask, you can include green criteria, and because it's important, and you can also ask for green process in a way, for instance, electricity from renewable sources, although it's not visible, you know, because when you have a lamp and you plug it in, whether it's nuclear energy or renewable, the light is there. But fact is, still it makes a lot of difference if the energy provided comes from, the electricity provided comes from renewable energies or not. So also there were like case laws decided by the European Court of Justice that said, no, this is a matter of general interest, and it's about CO2 reduction, so it's important. And then the new directives in 2014, they not only do they refer to green, but also to social. They say also social criteria. They explicitly say that it's possible to include them. And therefore, some people, they also in the Commission, they tend now not only to talk about GPP, Green Public, but also Sustainable Public Procurement, because you can include green and social criteria, looking also at the social side. And the new directives, they also encourage procurers to not just look at the cheapest offer, but at the most economically advantageous tender. That would mean then to see also, when you look at the product and the cycle of life of a product, take into consideration that one thing is the purchasing price, and the other criteria is like how much does maintenance cost of this product over 1, 2, 3 and more years. How much how much energy does it cost this project over the life cycle? How much water, etc. And these new directives of 2014, by April 2016, they have to be transposed in all EU member states. So last week we were in Maribor for our first GPP institutionalization visit, and we heard that on 1st April, for instance, the EU procurement directives of 2014, they will be implemented in Slovenia, and I guess also in the other member states. And that's important that you also try to find out what changes there or what options are then in this frame. Maybe in the frame of this transposed directives, there are new possibilities or new strategies from the national government to really push for GPP. So the first thing, there is really a legal backing. So someone says, no, legally it's risky. No, that's not. Obviously, you cannot discriminate. You have to stick to some rules, but legally there's really a strong backing that it is possible. And there it would be also good when you give your trainings that you have a clear picture of what's going on at national, regional, and local level in your country in terms of GPP, what strategies are there, at what stage is the transposition at national level, etc. The other advantage is the market power. I mean, public authorities, they really have a power, because if you think like just consider buses, I mean, more or less 50% of the buses, they are purchased by public authorities, school buses, buses for special occasions, public transport. So imagine that all the public authorities would push for very energy efficient buses or clean buses. I mean, that would have a strong impact also on manufacturers to really propose buses that consume little and use little energy. And the same goes for IT products, computers that are purchased by public authorities. So public authorities really can have an influence, but also at regional and local level. If you ask, for instance, for your buildings to be supplied by 100% renewable energies, I mean, that can have an impact, because maybe the supplier, it's a good contract, and then maybe also big private companies, they may also opt and say, well, if the local public authorities has 100% renewable energy and it's possible, why not we as well? You know, we also want to show that we are green. And there is a climate power. I mentioned that many local, regional, national authorities, they have climate target. They want to reduce CO2 emissions, sometimes because they are part of the Covenant of Mayors, sometimes for other reasons. And it's clear that the GPP, and by GPP reducing CO2 and energy, this really can have an impact. Here just 3 examples, like for instance, the city of Turku. They are a good example on energy efficient street lighting and office equipment. So imagine if all public authorities in the EU would do the same, the 15 million tons of CO2 emissions would be saved and electricity would be reduced by 50%. So just to give the idea that it's really a lot. And also the Swedish Administrative Development Agency, if all public authorities would purchase computers with the same criteria, energy efficient criteria, like they did, we could save or close 4 nuclear reactors. So it's a lot of potential there, particularly in the building and transport sector. Then that sometimes comes up, and since in GreenS most of our partners are in the southern Mediterranean area, sometimes I hear, well, it's more maybe for the big ones or the European cities. So it could happen that when you do your training, they say, well, yes, you convince us, but isn't it more something like for the big ones, for the Stockholm, Copenhagen, etc.? But when you look at on the website of DG Environment and you Google DG Environment GPP, you will see on the website, apart from all different relevant information on criteria, you will also see good practice examples that are collected by ICLE. There you will see that there are also many small cities in the north, in the south, in the east that successfully implemented GPP. Here just a few ones. Then obviously there are also medium-sized and big cities that they have a stronger impact if they do GPP. But it's definitely not true that a small city in the east or south of Europe cannot do it. Everybody can do it, and sometimes it's also about doing it in a smart way. I will come to that. That is obviously then the main argument. They say, well, we are convinced, but still GPP, eventually these green products, when I go to the supermarket, I see they are still more and more expensive. And we really do not have the budget, you know, the crisis, you know this and you know that. But also there are ways to reduce costs, and there are good examples how, despite green public procurement, the money was saved. And it's also about green public procurement. It's also about smart and creative procurement. Just to give you some examples, so it's not just about okay, this product, when I purchase it, costs €100 and the other one costs 90, so I take the one of 90, and I couldn't afford the one of 100. So it's about thinking, how could I reduce costs on overall, you know, if you have look at a perspective that you look at the different products. Just a few examples, for instance, in Malmö, Sweden, 100% of the school canteens, they are organic. So sometimes I hear, well, that's impossible in our case. How could we do organic? It's much more expensive. It's difficult to implement. We cannot discriminate with the local farmers and companies, you know, because when it comes to food, obviously Europe is like one market. You could not discriminate one farmer with another or one supplier with another, but there are ways. For instance, in Malmö, what they did, they have long-term contracts with local farmers, for instance, on milk, and like this, they save, they use less meat, and slowly they looked at different criteria without discriminating, and they managed to have 100% organic school canteens. And I always like the example also in Malmö, because the procurer told me that some time ago, the famous football player Zlatan Ibrahimovic, you may have seen one of his great games recently in the Champions League. He told the procurer even that it was also thanks to the school canteens in Malmö. As some of you may know, he grew up in a really poor neighborhood in Malmö. He said it was thanks also to this good food in the school canteens that he is what he is, because from his background, when he went to school, he didn't necessarily have had breakfast. So it was in the school that he got actually his first good food. That, I think, is a strong also testimonial. Then Kolding, they do 100% GPP, and through that do not use more money, but even save on average 10% less procurement costs. Milano, Italy, I put because they had an interesting case whereas in the past they had like loads of fax machines, printing machines all over the place. So they all reduced them and replaced them by multifunctional devices, and by that they save much more costs, you know, it's a repairing costs. So it's not just about looking about how much one product costs, but also how do I save maintenance costs throughout the life cycle, energy costs. Obviously a multifunctional device consumes much less than a standard fax or print machine. And Bremen, Germany, they combine, for instance, the fleet park. You know, sometimes cities, mayors, they like to have a big fleet for their staff, cars that are 80% standing there still. So in Bremen, what they did, they combined it with the car sharing. So if someone from the staff really needs a car, okay, during the day he can, with priority, book a shared car. Now in many cities you have this car sharing, and in the evening the car sharing are available for the normal citizens, and by that they saved a lot of money, because obviously if you have a car park, you have to bring it to the repair, you have to maintain it, etc. And like this, it's part of the car sharing. And then it can also be innovative. You can save through innovation. In Zurich, for instance, they needed a certain floor lamp, and they said, our floor lamp, we need 2,000. They should be really highly energy efficient. And they invited all manufacturers of lamps who were interested, and told them, look, this is a standard, a Swiss standard on lamps, on lighting. That's what we want. We want that this can be dismantled at the end of the life, that it's not just thrown away in one go. We want it to be very energy efficient, etc. And the result was that a totally new type of, then there was the tender, and the result was that there was a totally new type of floor lamps, you see it here in the picture, on the market. And they really transformed the market. So through GPP, they actually got a new technology on the market. There was also great interest from banks, and eventually they saved a lot of money. Other ways to save is through energy performance contracting. As you know, in simple words, it means like you tell a company, okay, here you have a public building, it consumes a lot of energy, you do all the energy efficiency measures, and from what you save, you are paid. So as the public authority, we don't have to spend a lot of money on it. Then obviously using life cycle costing, that's important. So instead of saying the cheapest price, you simply say the cheapest LCC, the cheapest life cycle cost. And by that, the companies that apply, they just have to prove that over 5 years, their product is cheaper than the other, and not just the purchasing price. Then joint procurement, in many cases, it also proved in savings. When several public authorities purchase together, they can have obviously have more power to reduce the price. And well, a simple thing is like to do always a needs analysis. Sometimes it's not really needed to buy a certain product, or you can achieve the same through another approach. Now, just a few examples about real savings. These are taken from the GPP 2020 website. You can also have a look. Some are really impressive. Here, the one from from Germany. You see, they needed dishwashing machines, huge ones, and through GPP and certain criteria, they saved more than 50% water, 50% less CO2, and 50% less energy. So it's really a good example. Or Consip in Italy, it's the Central Purchasing Agency. Obviously, this is now a huge agency, and lots of savings in terms of energy and money. I don't go in detail. City of Lourdes in Portugal, it's mainly about multifunctional devices. Rental, it's much less saving, but it's also about much less products. And just to show you, it's not just about the big ones, it can also be about the small entities. And another important aspect that you can bring in your training when you introduce is then how to be successful with GPP. You know, sometimes you see a city, they do one green tender and then they quote this tender for the next 10 years as if it had been the big event in the history of that city, but it's always good to have a strategy. So when you do the GPP institutionalization, don't just tell them, try also to involve them. It's also for you, for your own, you also want to deal with this in the future, to work with them, cooperate, have maybe projects, cooperation with these entities. So try to involve them also to accompany them in the development of a strategy in order to have tenders also beyond the duration of this project. Here I mentioned this, you know, the EcoBuy Vienna. I think they are just a good example, although they are now big, of the importance of having a strategy. And I always see that the best examples in this field, they all have a strategy where they link up their GPP strategy. For instance, in Vienna, it's the climate protection program. Then very important also the cooperation between the different departments, because sometimes or even in small cities, people from different departments, they don't know each other. So someone would be in one department would be very excited about GPP, and they wouldn't think that actually the environment department, they could really support with criteria, or from the economy department. So it's important to create an ownership of GPP. So if there is a group of people working together on green tenders in order to promote also the city, for instance, then it's good in that sense to create an ownership. In Vienna, a success factor was also the mandatory use. So they asked people to develop these criteria for the product groups, and once the green criteria were developed, they said, well, now that they are there, you must use them, because it doesn't make sense that we just talk about GPP all the time. Now that we have the criteria, let's also use them. They also did a lot of awareness raising and collaborated also with regional business. You see here a bit about how much staff was involved, and they had these working groups on developing catalogs on products. Here to give you a bit of an idea, so you had the legal department coming in, the economic department, the construction department, and then you had all these working groups on, for instance, buildings, computers, energy, etc. And when you go on the website of the ÖkoKauf Wien, EcoBuy Vienna, you also find criteria. I think they are also in English of all these specific working groups. You can also be inspired by some criteria. Some are similar to the one anyway that you find on the website of DG Environment. So eventually they saved really a lot, and this is also a good example, 15,000 tons of CO2 per year and €1.5 million. So it's really a clear example of how much can be saved and how GPP can really be a magic tool to support your climate targets. What is also important is networking. So you see here this equally run European network, Procura Plus. It's, I think, a good initiative for cities and regions who want to grow on GPP, who have a strategy, who want to learn simply about Procura Plus, about green criteria in tenders, learn from others about the difficulties, about new product groups. And in Procura Plus, we meet once a year, and every 3 years we have the EcoProcura conference, where procurers from all over Europe and Commission people and businesses come together to really see what's new there, how to do GPP, what other projects are there, synergies, etc. And the next Procura Plus seminar, just to give you an idea, will be in Rome from the 13th to the 14th of October, because at that time there will be also the National GPP Forum, Compra Verde, which is the national event of on green public procurement that is takes place every year. And this year it's in Rome, so I think it could be another opportunity to say, okay, I'm interested in this, I want also to participate. Just to add a slide here, you see, for instance, when you do your trainings, it might be that you go, for instance, to one city and you say, well, we are part of GreenS, we want to do a training. What is your wish list? So when we went to Maribor, for instance, they said the sustainable construction sector, street lighting, heating, insulation, they would be interested to have more good practice examples on it, and also criteria. So it's and you can easily prepare, and then you're also sure what you bring is really very relevant for them, and they see that you are taking them seriously, and what you offer is really tailored to their needs, and then it makes really sense, because it can be that one city wants to do a tender soon on electricity and another one rather on vehicles, because they have to buy 50 vehicles. So try also always to find out exactly what the authority where you go to give the training wants to do. I have now a few GPP best practice examples, but I think I go through very quickly, because I said it will last more or less an hour. So I will anyway send around also the PowerPoint presentation. Just to give you an idea, I put in Stockholm, and in Stockholm it's mainly about computers. They not only looked at energy efficiency, but also recycled plastic that they wanted. So they wanted really to have a green product, to reduce energy consumption and CO2, and also to reduce the amount of harmful substances in a computer. You know, I included also the award criteria, what they used. You see, they said it should be really the most economically advantageous tender, not just the cheapest. I don't go now into detail. Holbeck, there it's interesting because it's about street lighting. And I know many of you are interested also in street lighting. So in their case, they really saved up to 75% of money through energy efficient street lighting, switching to LED, having less lamps, and also including some technology. Zurich, I mentioned already Zurich for the innovative street lamps. They are very advanced when it comes to energy efficiency in buildings, and they have their certain criteria. Kolding, I also mentioned that they're very strong on energy efficiency, also in lighting, but they are a little GPP star because they include procurement in all their processes. But you can go through it in detail. It's more just to give you an idea how you can present it and what criteria it used, because it's like this. Sometimes when you give a training, it could be that sometimes they want just to get the idea, or to maybe a political representative is there or head of office that stays just for the first hour. So there it's important to show it's not more expensive, it's legally backed, it can achieve your targets. But when they are the procurers, maybe sometimes they also want now a session or an hour just on one product, and then it's good that you bring some good practice examples that you show in detail. Okay, that's what they saved, and it's great, but how did they do it? Where did they include the green criteria? Did they include it in the technical specification, in the must criteria, that they said, this you must supply? Or did they give award points for the green content, or contract performance clauses, or, you know, and then it's good to go in more detail. Here just 2 other examples. You see here in Brandenburg, Germany, they tend of 100% green electricity. But in this case, when it comes to energy efficiency, I would really say if you look for good practice examples, go on the GPP 2020 website. There you really have good examples on the very well detailed on how much energy was saved and how it was done in terms of criteria. So that's it. I will now go back to our side to see if there are any questions. So either you since you're a panelist, you can talk straight away if you unmute yourself, or you go, when you see on the top right, you click on chat, and there you can include your questions. So I give now the floor to you because I've already talked a lot. I hope it was useful for you. As I said, the session is recorded. The presentation will be sent around. But if there are any more questions from your side, then it's now the time. Thank you. Have you all fallen asleep?
No.
Oh, just to give you an idea, since now it's Filippo, the next visit will be in Calabria.
Yeah.
So there we will also probably present something similar as an introduction, since you have 2 parts, one more the formal and the one the more informal one. But also for your trainings, I think this can be something very useful to adapt.
Yes, because finally what is important, as we said many times, it's, for example, what the example on a practical example of a public standard, no? Where you describe the word criteria, the technical characteristics and specifications of a tender. That is the most the core of processing a public tender, a public procurement. So that I would stress that part of training, because finally we have a general vision, a general view of the GPP, the European directive, what is the GPP, the life cycle cost, etc., etc. But I would like to deepen and to study better and to practice how to write down, how to build a tender, a public tender. That is the most important target for me.
Because from my experience, I must say that in some trainings, they told me then in the evaluation, I went too much into detail. In the others, they tell you it's too general. So it's really about the right mix. But I think it has a lot to do with whom you train, or maybe there is an initial session which is more formal, where it's more like about to give the advantages and really shoot out the best practices in terms of savings to show it's possible. And then with the procurers, you can go more in detail about what is a tender, where you can bring in green considerations, and how you do it step by step, indeed.
Okay.
Are there any other comments or was something unclear? As I said, you either say it or you can write it. Okay, in that sense, I think it was all clear. I don't want to prolong it then much longer anyway. It was about the introduction of GPP. The next one might be most likely on the legal issues around GPP, giving a bit an overview about the European legislative framework, the directives from 2014, and what implications it has also for now our work about GPP and what is possible and what is also encouraged from the legislator for procurers to do. And we will see when we do that. We will see if that will be a lawyer or some of us. We are also currently finalizing the Buying Green guidance on the website of DG Environment. You find the second edition, and there is now a third edition developed, and that will come out, be published soon, which has all the new information following the reformation of the EU directives on procurement. So this will also help you for your trainings. Fine, then I wish you all a good Friday. Can't be too hard because the weekend is knocking at the door, so it's all good. Thank you for your attention. As I said, I will send around the presentation, and it's recorded, so I will also send that link. If you have any questions, obviously write to me individually or to my colleague Philip or Estella. We are here to support you when it comes to green public procurement. Thank you very much, and I wish you already a good weekend. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye, Stefan.
Peter.
Yes.
So we can find the recorded webinar on this on the WebEx. No, on this.
Yes, I will. I'm myself not an expert on this WebEx, but I know somewhere it is, and then I will send it around. Okay. Because it takes some time now to get in the while to appear. I know it takes maybe 15 minutes, and then it's there, the link, and then I will send it. Okay.
Okay.
And Filippo, just for you, I sent you some comments on the visit.
I saw it. Yeah.
Yeah. If it's fine for you, then I would prepare already with some presentations. Otherwise, let me know. Okay.
Okay.
Va bene. Okay, then. Bye bye, everyone. Ciao, Filippo.
Ciao, Peter. A presto. Ciao.
A presto. Ciao.